Sports Clash Radio with your host, Chad and JC Martin.
Hey everybody, another week 11 in the NFL. Man, lots happened this past weekend. We saw some teams separate. You've got a lot of teams that are in the middle of the pack. But some of the news that we did hear was Christine Michael got released from the Packers this weekend. I mean, not from the Packers, from the Seahawks.
Right.
And then
picked up by the
Packers. And we talked a little bit before this, was that kind of knew once it was released what team was probably going to go for him.
Because, I mean, he was the Seahawks' leading rusher through this point in the year, but C.J. Prosise looked so good Sunday night against a very good Patriots defense.
Yeah, he really did.
C.J. just kind of took the job from Christine Michael, because Christine Michael, by and large, was mostly ineffective in that game.
Yeah, speaking of that, what were your thoughts on that game? Because, I mean, we picked Patriots winning this game outright.
The Seahawks going coast to coast. But, you know, I saw a tweet, and I don't remember who sent it out, but, the account's called Not Sports Center. So they tweeted out that this game was basically Super Bowl 49, but in reverse. And I agree with that. That was a fair assessment, because it comes down to Patriots have the ball at the 1 yard line. LeGarrette Blount has 3 touchdowns in the game. Just hand him the ball. But instead, they try to throw it, and that was that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that
the opposite of what the Seahawks did. They had Marshawn Lynch, who had only lost yardage on one play in that entire Super Bowl. They didn't give it to him. They tried to throw the quick slant. It gets jumped and picked off. So, yeah, fair assessment there. Reverse Super Bowl 49.
And Vikings, their free fall continues. It was a matter of time, I think, before it was going to catch up with them not having an offense that was going to produce anything. And, man, people have figured that defense out a little bit too. And I don't see this stopping anytime soon.
I mean, you don't have Adrian Peterson. You're outside of Stephon Diggs, you don't really have any receivers.
No, so they're just going to double up on him.
Because we still don't know what they have in Laquan Treadwell, because he hasn't been out there enough.
Yeah.
And then, I've been very anti-Sam Bradford since it was announced that this was his job now after the Vikings traded for him. And he's finally shown why I don't believe in him.
Yeah, and I just don't. I see them as, they were all the talk the first 5 weeks of the NFL. Look at these guys; they're doing something great here. One of the top defenses, and it's just been all downhill since then.
Have you ever seen pictures of Sam Bradford?
Yes.
Just how his face is constructed. And since he wears the old school long sleeve uniform jersey, not sleeves on his arm, but his actual jersey sleeves are so long, he looks like that little kid who goes as a football player for Halloween.
Oh, yeah. Yes, he does.
So he's like playing the role of Vikings quarterback without actually having to be a good quarterback.
That's so sad, too. Poor Sam.
He doesn't even look the part.
Poor Samwise. But some news that we've all been waiting for. Jared Goff is finally getting the start in LA.
Right. I mean, after everything that they gave up to move up to the number 1 draft pick, it blew my mind that they haven't started him sooner. And I think the Rams got ahead of themselves when they started off 3-1.
Yep.
Because they didn't look impressive.
That's right.
I mean, they were winning, but they didn't look good. They won one game without scoring an offensive touchdown.
Exactly.
Then they did the same thing again this Sunday. They won the game without scoring an offensive touchdown, or scoring any touchdowns for that matter. It was 3 field goals.
Yeah.
So the Saints I'm sorry, not the Saints, but the Rams aren't good. Go ahead, throw the kid out there, see what he's got. Especially it looks bad for him since the Rams traded up for him, and then you've got Carson Wentz, who was picked right after him, playing as well as he's playing, and Dak Prescott for the Cowboys. Granted, you can chalk up Dak's success to that amazing offensive line he has.
So impressive.
Dez Bryant, Jason Witten, and Ezekiel Elliott.
Zeke had a monster week last week against Pittsburgh.
Right.
And probably the greatest game of the season so far, bar none.
Well,
it was awesome.
I felt that way while I was watching it.
It was nerve-wracking. Good Lord.
I felt that the Cowboys-Steelers game was the greatest game of the season so far while I was watching it. But then you turn around and you watch that Seahawks-Patriots game right after it.
That's true enough.
And it's the same thing. You had the 7 lead changes, and both of them was just back and forth.
You had the drama at the end of it, just like you did. I mean, And probably you could do a toss-up with that. I mean, just because I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm still going to lean that way. But you're right. You make a great point. That was a really good game.
You had hands down the two greatest games of the season so far, played it back-to-back consecutively.
Exactly. And that was all on Sunday. I mean, Sunday night football's matchups have been pretty good throughout the season.
Right. It's been Monday night
sucked,
and Thursday
night. Although this Thursday night, we should have a pretty good matchup. I mean, you got the Saints with their offense against Carolina with who knows which Carolina team is going to show up. They took another loss this weekend.
Right.
But I mean, still, it's at least it's a matchup of teams I would rather see versus teams that I wouldn't, like the Ravens versus the Browns on a primetime matchup. Whoever scheduled that garbage should be just taken out behind the woodshed and smacked around, because the Ravens I enjoy watching. And Cleveland I might enjoy watching if they ever decide to win football games and become a good team in the future. But right now, you cannot put them in primetime willingly and say people are going to tune in for this. Now, what we did see, like was with Dallas and Pittsburgh, I think have set the ratings record for the season so far with that game Sunday afternoon, which is awesome. I'm not sure. I never did get to see how the Seahawks Patriots numbers turned out. I'm sure they had.
I mean, it's Sunday
decent.
Night Football. People tune in.
I think so too. So they were probably pretty good.
But you think with the Steelers and the Cowboys, you're going to get the best ratings of the year because they are probably two of the top three largest fan bases in the NFL.
That's right.
You can't anywhere those teams go on the road, whether it's the Cowboys going to the Seahawks or to Minnesota or the Steelers going to the West Coast, it doesn't matter. Their fans turn out.
They really do, and it's like the cheers the Cowboys got when they were in Pittsburgh playing. I was stunned. I know they travel well because Cowboys are our team. Watch them all the time. It's not surprising that they travel well, but some stadiums you kind of expect that to dissipate a little bit.
Right.
It did not. I mean, Cowboy fans were in full force in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely.
And it was really kind of amazing, especially when Zeke broke off that 32-yard run to seal it at the end of it. That whole last sequence.
Oh, did you see the epic Steelers fan meltdown?
No, I did not.
So there's a video online. You probably can go on YouTube and find it and all that. So it looked like a little, it sounds like there's a kid holding the camera, a young kid, and his dad is watching that last touchdown by Ezekiel Elliott where he just runs up the gut untouched, doesn't have to move left or right, doesn't have to juke or anything. He just runs straight up the middle, untouched to the end zone. Well, the whole time Zeke's running, this dad's just screaming, losing his mind, and he starts going at the TV. The kid runs into the kitchen where his mother is. It's like, Dad's going to take the TV out into the yard. Which the father never said anything about that. But it kind of gives this credence to, this has probably happened before.
Yeah, exactly.
So the mom's like, what's he doing? Oh my God, no. She runs into the living room. At this point, the dad takes the TV. It's probably a good 50, 60-inch television, flat screen television.
Goodbye, big TV.
He throws it in the floor, goes to the bedroom, grabs a baseball bat, comes back in the living room, and proceeds to just obliterate this TV with the baseball bat until it just chunks of it. Plastic parts are flying everywhere.
That's great. Now, I understand being upset about a football game, but your team is 4-4, 4-5 now.
Right.
But if they were 8-1, 7-1, and they weren't so wishy-washy, which Pittsburgh has been, then I don't get as upset about that if my team's mediocre as I do if they're just a stellar team and then they're getting beat by somebody who they shouldn't be getting beat by. My reaction would be a lot different. Now, I wouldn't destroy my beautiful 55-inch TV or however big that damn thing is. Wouldn't go that far or anything like that. But still, that's ridiculous. Some folks just need to stop watching sports, period.
Because at the end of the day, all you're achieving is you're just down one less television.
And you're teaching your kid that's okay right there. I had to get me a stress dog when y'all were young to do that, to cope with the Cowboys in the 90s.
In the late 90s.
In the late 90s, that's right. Early 90s, it was great. Late 90s, there was an expectation, and it was rough.
It was horrible.
Speaking of expectation, a lot of you have heard, everybody's had to have heard by now, the Tony Romo presser.
It's been all over ESPN, Fox Sports.
It's the talk, and the whole situation has been the talk since the Cowboys really started stringing together wins in spite of Tony's injury. I got to tell you, it was probably the most emotional thing I've seen sports-wise as far as a player who's still playing and can still play the game doing that and doing that for his team. I mean, it was just, and you hear people like Larry Fitzgerald, you saw his quote coming out talking about the class, and, you know, you get to see something here that most sports figures are not going to show you.
Right.
You know, exactly how they feel and what a true leader looks like, and saying, you know what, I'm not going to cause problems. I could bitch, scream, and moan and say, you know, this is my job. I never lost it. I'm as good as anybody who can lead this team. But Tony doesn't do that.
And then for every 100 tweets, you have like Larry Fitzgerald's right there. You have a Stephen A. Smith coming out saying, "Oh, that was completely unnecessary."
Let me tell you something. Why would he do a press conference? That's, you know, it's selfish, and it's I hate Stephen A. Smith.
Right.
Hate may be a strong word.
Stephen A.
But
like he's
a prima donna.
He has such a hard on for antagonizing the Cowboys.
He does.
Like if he can't go through one 24-hour period without bashing the Cowboys or a Cowboys player or head office member or scouting department in some shape, form, or fashion, then his whole world will collapse in upon itself.
Which really, and I understand, these guys, they're in the entertainment business. And that's really what it is. You know, where you have sports analysts, and Stephen A. Smith is not a sports analyst. He is a sports entertainment commentary.
He's like the Howard Stern of sports, but far less amusing.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. So, Stephen A. and some of those idiots aside,
he's a shock jock.
He is a shock jock. I mean, big time. But because I thought when you go back, and I've listened to this Tony Romo interview so many times, even read through it, printed out just so I could read it. But I'll tell you what, reading it doesn't have near the impact of actually watching him do it. That thing was so silent in that interview room when he was given that. And I listened to some of the Cowboys insider stuff today, and people who were in there were saying just how quiet it was. It's not like your usual press conference or interview when people watching or they're typing on their computers, getting ready to type up their stories. Nobody was doing anything but watching this, and just were mesmerized by what they were watching and just enthralled in the words, because it was something they never expected at all from that.
Well, I think that's indicative of the kind of respect that all these people around the Cowboys organization have for Tony Romo. Even the ones that bash him when he doesn't play well, but if you don't play well, you're going to get bashed.
That's right.
Or if you don't deliver in a certain situation of the game, you're going to get bashed. That happens. But at the end of the day, all these people understand who Tony is, what Tony's done, because they remember the days of Quincy Carter and Drew Henson and Vinny Testaverde.
All the garbage since Aikman left. And let's be honest, at the end of Aikman's career,
it was bad.
Dallas fans were booing Troy Aikman. He brought you 3 Super Bowls, and you're booing this guy. That shows you the fickleness of fans. That's what fans do.
But it's also a business.
It is. Oh,
and if you don't play well, even though Troy retired due to injuries, but if you don't play well, at some point you get replaced.
Exactly.
Or if you're hurt for extended periods of time, at some point you're going to get replaced.
And that to me is when we saw the big issues with the Cowboys organization, period, right there. That was Jerry, his ego, thinking he could bring anybody in, the Cowboys were going to win. And that's when Jerry, I don't think, threw himself into actually knowing and how to build a team. And I give Jerry all the credit in the world he's earned it these past few years of them actually going out and saying, you know what, that whole way of thinking we used to do has got to change. We've got to actually put together a team. And they've done that.
I'll attribute that more to Steven and the scouting department.
The scouting department has been,
as everyone knows, this man had to be talked off of a ledge for wanting to draft Johnny Manziel, and they just absolutely refused to let him do that.
Exactly. Took his card, which was perfect to do that.
Took
it was
right
awesome.
out of his hand.
But, these guys, and Tony, through it all, has been the guy who actually had to carry that team on his back. And I've said this, we've had this conversation a million times. I've always gone to bat for Tony, and I've always said, the 8-8 seasons where they're being dogged about being 8-8. My whole thing always was, Cowboys are not 8-8 if Tony Romo wasn't there. If he's not there, they're 3-13, 4-12 if they're lucky. And it's funny because Nate Newton today came out and said that very same thing on Talking Cowboys today. He was like, he said that verbatim. I was like, I've always said that right there. He's like, they don't win if Tony's not in there. Those 8-8 teams, they're not 8-8.
And for all the praise that Cowboy fans or even sports-related media around the world give to Roger Staubach, or give to Troy Aikman, or Danny White, or all these other Cowboy quarterbacks, at the end of the day, Tony Romo holds almost every single Cowboys passing record there is to hold. But then you compare him to all-time leaders.
That's right.
As far as quarterback rating, all-time, Tony Romo is third, 97.1. That's from 2004, when he first came to the league. Granted, he didn't play for the first 2.5 years.
That's right.
But 2004 to 2015, 97.1. Then you move on to career yards per pass attempt. He's second most of all time, only behind Peyton Manning.
Who's considered one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
7.09 yards per attempt. Completion percentage, he's tied for fourth with Peyton Manning. Completion percentage, 65.3%. The only quarterbacks ahead of him, Drew Brees, Chad Pennington, who wasn't he wasn't durable, which is the big knock on Chad Pennington. But it's not like he was a bad quarterback.
No, he wasn't. I think he's another one of those guys you could have put talent around and probably would have made all the difference in his career.
And but then Drew Brees, Chad Pennington, Kurt Warner, and then he's tied with Peyton Manning. That puts him above Tom Brady. That puts him above Aaron Rodgers. Let's move on to fourth quarter comebacks. Now, this is kind of where he's low on, not low, but lower than what we've seen, because so far the lowest he's been is fourth. But right here, he's tied for 14 with Matt Ryan, fourth quarter comebacks.
And that's for his whole career. The last 5 years, he's been the leader, I think, in fourth quarter comebacks.
Yeah, this is for career. He's got 25 fourth quarter comebacks in his career. And, that puts him in the same company as Warren Moon, who has 26. Johnny Unitas, Ben Roethlisberger with 27. Drew Brees with 28. Vinny Testaverde, who played for 7 teams, one of those being the Cowboys, and did lead a fourth quarter comeback with the Cowboys. But, some other people who are in that area, Dan Fouts, Drew Bledsoe, Jim Kelly, these guys are actually below Tony Romo. Philip Rivers, Matt Stafford.
Talking about Hall of Famers.
Yeah, Carson Palmer, Joe Flacco. Troy Aikman's 53rd on this list.
Exactly.
For God's sakes.
That's right.
But then again, those teams didn't really have to play from behind at all.
Well, they didn't. But that, again, speaks to Tony Romo and my whole argument that without Tony Romo, Dallas is complete garbage. All the way through the 2000s. They just are. Right. This man is, if whoever tells me that he doesn't have the talent, you always hear, and I've heard it so much these last couple of days, well, when he dropped that snap in Seattle, okay, we get it. He screwed up in Seattle.
You're talking about one thing that happened 11 years ago.
Exactly. This is so long ago, and that's what you're trying to nitpick.
when he first got the job?
Yeah, then you're trying to say, well, he did throw that, game-sealing interception when they were having that duel with Peyton Manning and in Cowboys Stadium.
They scored 48 points.
And he threw over 500 yards. I'm sorry.
What else could Tony Romo have done?
Exactly. Talking about putting a team on your back. And that's really my whole issue with this whole thing. And I really wouldn't have a problem with any of these things that's going on with Tony Romo right now if the man couldn't still play. And I know the argument is he can't stay healthy. I will halfway concede that to a point. Last year he got hurt, he rushed back and got hurt again. That was the biggest knock last year. They were in such a hole last year. They
needed him.
The reason he didn't come back this year early is because they started winning. They're going well. Our whole plan is we'll let Tony get as healthy as he has to be. That way he doesn't have any rust when he comes back. But
you can start working him back in the routine.
Exactly. But now that the fans are all about Dak and the hype train is took off about Dak, and then you have all the analysts and all those guys saying, well, you can't change. The Cowboys organization is in a no-win situation when it comes to that.
We were talking about this last night. If Dak blows one game, the people will be like, don't put Tony in there, keep Dak. All right, so Dak hangs around.
That's right.
But if he drops 2 games in a row, all of a sudden these people are going to be clamoring for Tony. But if Tony then comes in and doesn't perform, or they lose a close game, God forbid they lose a close game, all these people are going right back, well, we should have started Dak. We should have put Tony Romo back in there. He's done. It's over.
That's right. There's a certain segment of the fandom you're never going to satisfy.
Like, people are going to find a way to complain about anything if they have the opportunity.
And I said this yesterday. A person asked me this yesterday, and I said it then. I stick by it now, even 24 hours plus later, is that I still believe Tony Romo gives you the best chance to win. If Dak has been performing as good as he has with this amazing offensive line, Zeke Elliott, who is better than advertised, I mean, just tearing it up, what do you think Tony can do back there who can actually read defenses? Yes, Tony doesn't have the footwork as far as speed that, Dak has.
He doesn't have the size that Dak has.
He doesn't, but does he have the arm that Dak has? Absolutely. He's got every bit as much zip on his football that Dak has. He's not as tall as Dak, but that hasn't stopped Tony before.
Right.
And plus, you get the benefit of experience, and Tony can dissect the defense. Did you see the meme of him or the video of him when they called the play and Tony was like, it's not going to work before the play ever got snapped? Because he can see that, and that's years of experience and years of work. So,
but something that you were talking to me about yesterday was the difference in starting Dak Prescott and starting Tony Romo is when you start Dak Prescott, teams aren't scared to load the box on him.
No, they're not.
Teams, if they were to load the box against Tony Romo is going to immediately make you pay for it.
That's right. You want to see Dez's numbers tick up? That's what happened. Because as we saw in the Pittsburgh game, Dak hasn't been good at throwing the back shoulder fade.
No.
That has been a staple of Tony and Dez like crazy. Tony is pinpoint accurate on that thing. And you saw they've been off this whole season with that back
out
shoulder
routes, simple 10-yard outs.
Yeah.
He
goes high or low with that.
Dak has struggled with the touch pass.
Exactly.
That's what it comes down to. If he has to put a real nice, deliberate touch on the ball, he struggles to make those passes complete.
And believe me, we're not bashing Dak. I'm happy that the Cowboys are 8-1. That's
right.
Great. We're simply pointing out.
And he looks like he's going to be the truth.
And I think he is. I mean, I have seen nothing that shows me that he's not. The point is that right now, Tony Romo is still by far the better quarterback. We just are not getting the chance to see it. I mean, this team was designed for Tony Romo.
Right. Yeah.
Every effort was made for this to happen. And I guess that what it really comes down to me is the tragedy of him not getting the opportunity. That's really what it comes down to. The Cowboys are winning. You can't argue with that. You can't be sad about it because it's all about the team. But it's still, to me, a tragedy that he doesn't get to play behind the team that the organization went ahead and made the commitment to build for him.
But I think the way I see it, this playing out, is I think the Cowboys are going to take a page from the Denver Broncos last year.
Yeah.
I think they're going to run Dak until he gives them reason not to. And once he does, then Tony's going to come in, and Tony can still, like we just spent a good stretch of time there talking about, Tony Romo can go in there and he can do those things that you need. And we haven't seen Tony and Zeke together.
Yeah.
We saw them together for 3 plays.
That's right. That was it.
So you look at Tony Romo, see what he can actually do with Zeke in that backfield, with that offensive line, playing with the rhythm that they're playing with right now. If they make Tony Romo the starter for the playoffs, then I think that really elevates Dallas's chances to make that run to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I'm
not going to say win it because I don't want to put that kind of voodoo on them and jinx them, but they can make that run. They have that talent. Now, I think if you despite the Patriots loss Sunday, I still think the Patriots are the AFC favorite.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm impressed with the Raiders and what they're doing. I would love to see a Cowboys-Raiders Super Bowl.
That'd be a lot of fun.
But I think if the Cowboys and the Patriots are to play each other, it's neutral site, the advantage goes to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Naturally.
I think so, but I think that's where Tony would give you an edge over Dak in that situation.
And I agree with that.
Just because of his experience, how they can't, like we talked about, they can't load the box up on Zeke to stop Zeke, and the way that offensive line is playing. I mean, Zeke's 3 touchdowns, they didn't touch him. No Steelers defender touched him on 3 of those. So, I mean, you want to know the true MVP of the Cowboys, it's that offensive line. I mean, bar none, it's the offensive line. They'll not get any. They get love in the fact that everybody says greatest offensive line, but as far as awards go, they'll see Pro Bowls, they'll get, and that's what they'll get. But there's no MVP for the offensive line. Technically, you could give it to them. There's no statute in the NFL rules or awards or any of that stuff that says they can't do that. But they won't because it goes to glory positions.
Right.
But if you want to know the true MVP of the Dallas Cowboys, it is the offensive line and Zeke Elliott.
And,
because they both make each other work.
But if they don't give the MVP to that offensive line, I think it would be a travesty. And I'm not just saying this to spark conversation, but when everyone talks about the Cowboys,
yeah,
the first thing that they praise about the Cowboys, is the offensive line.
Yeah.
So if everyone can go ahead and they're already giving the offensive line that recognition, and the Cowboys are 8-1, they have the best record in the NFL.
Yep.
And you've got a rookie running back coming out here putting up the numbers that he is. I'm sure part of that is Zeke's talent and his hard work and all the studying that he's done to be that good. But at the same time, someone's got to create holes for you.
Exactly.
And you go back to that last touchdown against the Steelers. The reason that Ezekiel Elliott can run right up the middle untouched without having to veer or anything like that is the fact that the offensive line put all of those Steelers defenders on their backs.
Oh, man.
Like, you couldn't see a Steelers defender because they were on the ground being covered by Cowboys offensive linemen.
Exactly. So, we didn't mean to make this a Cowboy show, but, I mean, when you're talking about this press, it's
right.
all everybody's talking about anyway.
But something I was wanting to get to with Tony Romo, though, is going into next season, if Tony Romo's healthy, Tony Romo's starting next season. Now, after that season's over, the Cowboys don't owe Tony Romo any guaranteed money anymore.
Well, they still owe him a little bit.
They owe him a little bit, but it's
not going to be
stuff
as great as it is.
It's not anything that's going to hurt you to part with.
If the Cowboys cut him after June 1st, they'll save a little over $10 million post June 1st.
And I'm talking about going into the 2018 season.
That's right. And then they'll save, I think, $13 million of that year.
Right, because if they cut him next year or trade him next year, they're on the hook for $18 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. So they're not going to. Now, they could go out, and I believe Tony Romo and that organization, the coaches, have such a great, bond. It's almost family is what it is.
They're going to do right by Tony, whatever they do.
I'm sure what will probably happen is they might try to trade him and see what they can get, but they're not going to send Tony Romo to a team that he doesn't want to go to. They wouldn't do that to him. Most likely what they'll do is they'll cut him. If he says, just cut me and I'll go, then you're going to see Tony try to go to a team who is playoff ready from the jump, and they're missing that one piece.
It's like what they did with DeMarcus Ware.
Exactly.
They wanted him to renegotiate his contract, take a little less money, and he wouldn't do it, and he had been taking less money for so long. Like Romo, after he signed this, everyone talks about the contract he signed, but they don't talk about the fact that he's been constantly restructuring this contract to make more money available for the Cowboys.
Which is why they're on the hook now for it. Finally.
Right,
It catches up with you
at some point. So what they did was they cut DeMarcus Ware to give him the opportunity to go where he thought would give him the best chance to win a Super Bowl, and lo and behold, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and Tony could very well end up in Denver next year. I wouldn't put it past Denver because they're still developing their quarterbacks. You could almost see that. I wouldn't put it past John Elway. But Arizona is another intriguing place because Carson Palmer's up and down. They still have all these weapons and a pretty damn good defense. He could go to. He could go to Arizona. I don't think he'll end up in Jets. So
Arizona doesn't have a good offensive line. They just don't. And their receivers have been up and down. Your best receiver is still Larry Fitzgerald, but Larry Fitzgerald is. I mean, you can tell that his production's slacking off. He can give you, one or two great games here and there, but he's not going to do it consistently at this point in his career.
Yeah.
So I don't think that would be a viable option.
Yeah, and like I said, it's going to have to be a team though that's pretty near and close to going to the playoffs.
But you think
if it's not, then you won't see Tony going.
Now, I'm not sure what Sam Bradford's contract is looking like with the Vikings, but if Teddy Bridgewater can't go next year,
I could see him going to Minnesota.
And they were somehow able to work a trade where Romo gets to go to Minnesota, and maybe the Cowboys and the Vikings split that guaranteed money that's due Romo, to make it to where the Cowboys just aren't going to. Cowboys are not going to eat $18 million.
That's right. No, they're not.
But if you can make the trade work and make dollar cents, then Tony Romo to the Minnesota Vikings could be terrifying with the way that their defense is set up. Get a healthy Adrian Peterson back.
Oh man.
Stephon Diggs, let Laquan Treadwell develop.
Tony Romo's experience would help Laquan pretty well.
It would help Laquan, and as Teddy Bridgewater rehabs and is trying to get himself back together, that could really pave and make Teddy Bridgewater all the more dangerous when he comes back to take over his team.
There's going to be a lot to talk about after the end of this season when this happens. I still want to see Tony go out on top of the Cowboys. I think anything less is a tragedy. As much as he sacrificed his body, all the hard work that he's been through, the dark place that he talked about. You just never see that from an athlete. And when he came out there, and if there's actually somebody out there who hasn't seen this, then if you're a sports fan at all, and if you're watching us talk about it and telling you about it, then you should have already watched it. If you haven't, go see it. Stop what you're doing. Stop this and go watch that, because it's the most amazing thing you'll probably ever see from a sports personality. I mean, it's got the whole. He's won over so many new fans with just that, because he showed you what a true leader is all about. Let's get into Pick'em. We have gone long on this thing. Let's get into Pick'em real quick. You got some games to get through. We talked Thursday night, Saints Panthers.
I'm taking the Saints on the road. I believe in Drew Brees far more than I believe in any part of that Carolina team.
Well, I have to agree with this one. Cardinals, Vikings.
This is one that's tough because you know that these teams have talent. But you don't know which version of these teams you're going to get. But I'm taking Arizona, making the trip up north.
I am too, because I think the Cardinals just have, in the end, a little more offense than the Vikings do. Two good defenses, but I think Cardinals will do it. Bills, Bengals. Bengals have been straight garbage. They got beat by the Giants again on Monday night.
But the Giants are a good team.
They
only lost by a point. I think the Bengals are dangerous. I think the Bills are good. I think the Bengals are so much better than what they're playing. I think the Bengals are due. They're at home. I'm gonna take them at home.
You're gonna take the Bengals.
I'm taking the Bengals at home.
My problem with the Bills is I'm not sure. Again,
I don't believe in Tyrod Taylor.
They have no consistency. Tyrod's up and down, and so I think that the Bengals' defense will be more than the Bills are going to be able to handle offensively. So I don't see the Bills scoring many points. Now this could be one of those Jekyll and Hyde things where they go off, but I don't think so this week. Bears, Giants.
Like, if it's the Bears, just pick the other team.
Yeah, Steelers, Browns, same thing here. Steelers.
Yeah, same exact thing. Pick against the Browns always.
Buccaneers and Chiefs.
I'm going with the Chiefs.
I am too.
Jameis looked pretty good this past Sunday.
Really amazing play. If you hadn't seen it, bring it up.
This Chiefs defense is so good. Their offense is inept, but their defense is really, really strong. So I'm going to roll with Kansas City at Kansas City.
Ravens, Cowboys. Don't see any reason to go against the Cowboys until they make me question it. And then
they have to give me a reason at this point to go against them.
And right now they're just not. They're on a roll. Jaguars, Lions.
The Jaguars, they are really close to being the Browns.
Yes, they are.
They're dangerous, but they have way more talent than the Browns.
That's
part.
Exactly.
They just can't put it together. And they're like the Browns. They're playing close games. They're losing close games. But the fact is, they're still losing. The Lions are leading the NFC North, and Matt Stafford's looking like he might be damn near the best quarterback in the NFL this year.
Yeah, he is rolling. Titans, Colts.
I'm taking the Titans on the road.
Too. I really am too.
DeMarco Murray's just running over, around, and through everybody. He's catching well out of the backfield. Marcus Mariota is actually the AFC Player of the Week this week after he went off against the Packers.
Yeah. Last week, DeMarco showed you why in 2014 he was one of the best backs in the league.
He was the best back in the league in 2014.
And behind that Dallas Cowboy offensive line. Deadly combination.
And that was with them in their first year together because that was Zach Martin's rookie year.
Exactly.
He had just been drafted out of Notre Dame.
The Titans have a damn good offensive line. Dolphins, Rams.
I'm taking the Dolphins. I know they have to go all the way across the country, but we said the same thing about the Seahawks. Brian Tannehill's playing probably the best stretch of his entire career to this point.
I'm going to take the Rams in an upset. Just because we're playing Jared Goff, I need an upset pick. I'm just going to go with this one. Even though I believe the Dolphins will win, I'm just going to go Rams, just for the heck of it. Patriots, 49ers.
The Patriots have to go all the way to the West Coast as well.
But I don't care.
Damn it. It's TB12.
That's right.
Tom Terrific.
Did you see Tom Brady's commercial where he made fun of Deflategate? That was awesome. Now, that was one of the best things.
The Patriots will be without Rob Gronkowski, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Because he has the punctured lung, because that was a vicious, vicious, vicious hit by Earl Thomas.
Yep.
Earl Thomas has just been laying lumber on people his entire career. But he just took out arguably the biggest, strongest dude in the game.
Yeah, that's tough.
I mean, he put him on his back, but I'm still going to roll with Patriots because they still have Black Unicorn. And Black Unicorn was in full effect against the Seahawks. He was catching everything.
Yes, he was. Eagles, Seahawks. I got to go Seahawks.
I got to go Seahawks because I need Dallas, to gain some separation there in the NFC East.
That's right. Packers, Redskins.
I'm going with the Redskins.
I am too, unbelievably.
Because the Packers are just so Running game is non-existent. Defense, non-existent. Outside of Ha Clinton Dix, I couldn't tell you a good thing about the Packers defense.
And they are missing.
And they're hurt. You know,
so bad.
They're missing Clay Matthews. They're missing their corners. They're missing defensive linemen.
And it shows in their play. It's rough.
It does, but Kirk Cousins, though, you know, he's quietly putting together a good year. Like, he didn't start off strong, but he's really put it together as a full season. That's despite his receivers not playing that well.
That's what I'm saying. I can see 3 NFC East teams making the playoffs.
I could too. 3 NFC East, 3 AFC West.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when it comes down to that. Finally, we have Texans Raiders, which
the Raiders.
I'm going with the Raiders too.
Brock Osweiler is garbage. $72 million worth of garbage.
The Texans are another potential landing spot for Romo next year. I don't think it happens.
I don't either.
But they do have some pretty good weapons, pretty good defense, and Watt will be back next year.
You know, Chicago makes sense for Romo too. Just because he played at Eastern Illinois, although he is from Wisconsin.
But he won't go to Chicago because they're straight garbage. And Romo's not going any place where they don't have a hope.
If they can keep Alshon Jeffrey and they get Kevin White back.
He just got suspended.
Yeah, but for 4 games this year. He won't be suspended next year.
Questionable character. Not really. I love Alshon.
Right. He's a monster.
I love Alshon. He is awesome.
If they could get something going on defense, then the Bears have young weapons that they can put to work.
Yeah, but I won't see Tony going there. I just don't. I would be shocked, beyond shocked. All right, guys, that's all we got for this week. We appreciate it. Let us know your thoughts. I know that for a lot of you, this whole Romo thing, if you're not a Cowboys fan, because you're either a Cowboys fan or you're a Cowboys hater.
Right.
Period. There's not really any middle ground.
And most people are haters, but that's fine.
Haters, but
y'all can bow down and kiss the rings.
That's right.
Cool.
So that's all right with us. But we have that. I mean, these pick'ems, you've got lots of things going on. I'm interested to see Jared Goff, though, what he does. That's kind of why I took the Rams, just for sometimes the football guys just kind of smile down and go, you know what? We'll give the kid. We've seen that this year already with some of the amazing stories that are going on in the NFL. These rookies are playing kind of out of their minds this year, so we'll see. But, guys, we got to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in. Follow us on patreon.com/sportsclash. Follow us on YouTube. Check out, subscribe to our channel. Leave your comments. You can follow us on Facebook at Sports Clash Radio, on Twitter at Sports Clash Rad. Give us a like, give us a share, tell your friends, tune in. We'll talk to you soon.